Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome in. Happy Friday. Let's see who's here. Cult of Hermits, hello. You are the first one. Hello, Castle. Kevin, our lovely mod. King David Houghton, hello, hello. Microcell Technical Assistance, good morning. It is afternoon for us here in lovely Ontario. And like 6 feet snowbanks. we've been snowed in for the past little while, but it's all good. It's like nice and pretty out there. Mariposa, hello, Ramos. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome in. Welcome. So today we are going to be drawing hands. This is just like an old demo from one of my classes that I thought would be a nice representation of what we're going to be doing today. So yeah, Friday stream. You know what? We used to stream on Fridays for the longest time, and then we moved to weekends, and now we're back to Friday. So yeah, back to the good old days. Hello, Faka. We kind of share a name. Welcome in. If this is your first stream, hello. And we are going to jump in today because we've got a lot to go through. But if you're here to draw hands with me, get ready, get your drawing tools ready. I'm going to be drawing traditionally today. But feel free to draw with whatever you like, whatever is the most comfortable for you. So I actually like using chalk. That's probably my favorite medium to draw, just because I used to draw with it so often that I just kind of like, it's like my default, right? Let me know what your default go-to drawing tool is. I'd love to know. And just catching up with the chat. You don't get snow here. Oh, too bad. I mean, sometimes, like, I got 10,000 steps in over the weekend just from shoveling snow. That just to give you an idea, that's how much snow we had. Yeah. Okay. So you guys are using pencil. Yeah, pencil's good. Digital is always good. The Control Z is very helpful. Fountain pen. That's great. That's awesome. Yeah, drawing with fountain pen is really great because you can't go back, right? Like you can't really erase stuff. So it's a really, really good thing to practice with. So the opal dagger, nice. Please share your stuff. If you're going to draw with us on stream, I would love to see all of your artwork on our Discord. So yeah, if you're not on the Discord yet, it's a wonderful place. Full of art nerds helping each other, sharing artwork. And that's where I post all of my demos and final images from the stream. So definitely join the Discord if you haven't already. Hey, Kindred Spirit, one of our lovely students. Yeah, you made it on time. Yes, you guys are early. So let's jump in. Our mission at Wing Canvas is to make art education easily accessible to everyone. So be sure to join our free live stream lessons every week. We're switching it up. We stream on Saturdays and Mondays. Today we're streaming on a Friday. But we're not just a YouTube channel. We are an online school of illustration. We are an online school of illustration helping art nerds turn their passion into income. So if you're an art nerd, be sure to join our Discord where you can find our notes and artwork from streams, as well as art challenges and other resources to help you improve your art. And I also want to personally thank our incredible Patreon and YouTube members and our lovely students for supporting our mission. YouTube members can... let's see here. YouTube members can get cool perks like behind the scenes stuff, and they can see video drafts before they're released. And Patreon members can level up their artwork with classes, Q&A, and live critique, and personal support like draw-overs from instructors. So draw-overs, if if you didn't know, our members can get critique on their artwork, feedback directly from instructors. These are our office hours, and these are some of the perks that you get, like cool emotes, sub badges, as well as behind the scenes stuff, and also monthly class recordings. So check out our Patreon for more details. All right, so let's get into submissions. Our lovely members on the Discord. By the way, our Discord is completely free to join. And we have these monthly challenges. And this month's challenge is Future Fantasy. So I just love this piece. Shout out to Hadassah Hess. Really cool piece. I love how you have like a full environment. It reminds me a little bit of like Diagon Alley or some kind of like it feels very timeless because it's kind of got like the classical sort of like old European village with these robots. And I think it's really, really well done. Lots of detail, great storytelling, and really fun to look at. So nicely done, and congrats on being featured. Our next submission is by The MacGuffin. The MacGuffin. Really fun little story here. I'm gonna try to do it justice. I cast laser cannon. Wait, what? This made me laugh, so I thought it was a pretty nice change of style for you. I've seen some of your other work, and I thought this was really funny. So, nicely done. Thank you for submitting. And last but not least, Mia D. Mia D loves seeing traditional artwork on the Discord, and just like all around lovely drawing here, or painting, I guess it would be. And you know what? Orange and gray is such a good color combination. It's like, it's when I was working as a graphic designer, I would use orange and gray all the time because orange is just such a bright and fun color that it can make everything look more fun, more adventurous, and just like, give it that extra pop. And when you put it next to gray, even though gray is such a desaturated color, it makes the gray look kind of blue, right? Because the orange is the opposite color of the gray. So it has that kind of effect where it makes the gray appear like the opposite color. So I really like the color scheme. I like how you balanced out the neutral with like that bright pop of orange. I think it works really well for you. And thank you for submitting. All right, so if you haven't had a chance to submit yet, there is still 7 days left in February. This month's art challenge is Future Fantasy, so get your submissions in. Iggy will be streaming tomorrow, and hopefully you guys will have a chance to get your artwork featured. Oh, Josh is streaming on Monday, so 2 more chances of getting your artwork featured this month. All right. Let's get to drawing, guys. Okay. Yeah, all these drawings are so awesome. I love seeing your work, and I just think it's super cool to see everybody's style, and because we are a school of illustration, it definitely helps to see all the storytelling that's on our channel. And what does Iggy teach? Iggy teaches cartooning and anime and digital art, and he's a great digital painter. Okay. So let's draw hands. I got a big giant sheet of paper here, and I think that it's really nice to draw big once in a while. It's a nice treat because usually, when we draw on a small piece of paper, like an 8.5 by 11. This is actually 18 by 24. Like that's how big this paper is, right? So you can see how small my hand is. If I had a regular sketchbook, it might be this big, right? And so I can't really draw with my arm as much. I would be drawing with my wrist. So this allows me to draw with my arm. And I will just like let you know exactly what I'm drawing with. So this is my very broken chalk pastel set. Some people like to call it conte. And you can see I intentionally break my chalk to be about 3/4 of an inch to 1 inch. I really like this size. I just like how versatile this type of chalk is, and I can make really interesting marks with it. So let me show you some different varieties. So I can shade like this really quickly. I can draw lines like this, right? And then I can draw thin lines as well. So this piece of chalk is actually kind of hard. I like the softer pieces of chalk, but just like your pencils, like your HB, your 2B, right? They can come in different soft or hardnesses. So you can shade really quickly with this type of material. So some people call it conte. Conte is like a fancy brand of chalk, and it comes in pencil forms as well. But this is just chalk pastel. It's hard for me to write with these, but yeah, that's the medium that I'm using. Okay, so I'm actually going to be drawing from using my own hands. Because I think that using your own hand as reference is a really, really good way to start. And so, you know, if you're drawing along with me, just use your own hand, do whatever pose you need to do. But I'm just going to go over some basics of how to draw hands. Okay. So if you're just starting out, let me know in the chat if you're a beginner. Okay. Put a 1 in the chat if you're a beginner. Put a 5 in the chat if you are an expert or you've been drawing for a very long time, and the numbers in between. So just let me know what level you're at if you guys are here live, so that I can give you guys some better tips. Okay, so I see some 1s. If you are a 1, basically, like, there's a couple of things you need to know when you're drawing hands. So 1 is you don't want to outline. Okay. Don't outline. At least not in the very beginning. Okay. So you don't want to do this. Okay. Don't do that. And the reason for this is because you just drew a inflated latex glove. Have you guys ever like taken a latex glove and just like blown air into it? That's what it looks like. Okay, that's what it looks like. It doesn't have any life to it. It just is funny looking, right? It looks more like a glove than it does an actual hand. And it's really hard to get all of the fingers right, you know, and there's no structure, okay? So you don't want to outline. What you want to do is you want to draw the structure. So what I like to do is tell people to draw from the inside out. Okay, so you want to draw from the inside out. So what does that mean exactly? Like how do you draw from the inside of your hands? Like you can't see any bones, right? Actually, I have a little skeleton hand. This is plastic. It's not really anatomically correct, but it's good enough to kind of show you some idea of what a bone of your hand looks like. Okay, so as you can see, the bones on a hand extend all the way into your palm. Okay, so your fingers actually start about here. So that means that's what allows you to curl your hand, right? You can kind of see how I'm curling the palm of my hand, right? That's what gives your hand that mobility. And these bones are, if you look at the size of them, like proportionally, right? You can see that this is similar to the length of the hand. So I've got kind of short, stubby fingers. So my palm is slightly longer than my finger, but like roughly it's about the same. Okay, more or less it's about the same. So if you look at the palm of your hand, you can simplify the palm of your hand into like a square, like a thick piece of toast, or bread. I should say bread because bread can bend and toast cannot. Okay, so you want to think about structure. So not necessarily like bone structure, although you should know roughly what the bones look like, right? But drawing it from the inside out is a good way of drawing people in general, right? Because you are taking the skull and the skeleton and the bone structure and keeping that in mind. So the method for drawing from the inside out that I've sort of developed over 20 years, I would say, you can simplify it into the GSL method. Okay, so if you've been to my streams before, you've probably heard me talk about it. But the GSL method, the G stands for gesture. The S stands for shape. It can also stand for silhouette or structure. Okay, those are all good. Shape is the easiest, so if you're a 1, just think about it as shape. Okay, shape and silhouette are very similar, but silhouette is more complex than a shape. So for example, this is a shape, right? A silhouette might be a combination of shapes. So a silhouette might be like this. Okay, so yes, this is still a shape, but this is a more complex shape than a basic shape like this. So structure is 3D. Okay, so if this is shape, then structure is like this. Okay, so shape is 2D, structure is 3D, silhouette is a combination of shapes, but they're all sort of the same process. Okay, so you want to go from the gesture, which is usually like a line, right? A gesture is usually a line, but it's not an outline. Gestures are not outlines. Gestures are the line of action or the line of movement. Yes, basically GSSSL, yeah. So you typically go from shape to silhouette to structure, okay? So if you're a level 1, start with shape. It's easy. There's nothing wrong with it, right? Even if I'm a level 5, shape is very, very helpful. Then use your shape to get to your silhouette. Okay, so combine your shapes to get to your silhouette. And then structure is how you would draw form, okay? So your line is the last part of your drawing. So you start from the inside, right? You build the structure and then you draw the outline. Okay, so most people will draw the line first and they're like, oh, this looks wonky. What did I do wrong? And then they're like, oh, okay, let me check the shapes. Oh, I see what I did wrong. Okay, I'm gonna adjust the shapes. Wait, now it looks okay, but why does it just look so stiff? Oh, because I forgot to draw the gesture. Oh, okay. So do it last. The gesture should take no more than like 20 seconds. Okay. For a hand, a gesture would take 10 seconds. So if you invest the 10 seconds to map out or draw out the movement, your hands are going to look much better, or your hand drawings are going to look so much better. Okay. So line actually takes the longest, but it's what we want to draw first. And I read somewhere, I took a brain and eye class in university, and I learned that even blind people, even if you were born blind, you will draw lines naturally. Everybody starts out drawing lines because that's how we, that's how we interpret things. Like if you were blind, you would feel the contours, right? You would feel like the shapes of objects, and then you'll draw them naturally from the outline, which I thought was really, really interesting. Just answering some questions. My hands are really dirty now. Violet Night Dreams says, are outlines and lines the same? Yes, they're both lines, but gestures are more like guidelines and lines are more like line art. Okay, so technically gestures can be lines. Gestures can also be shapes. I will go into it last. So whenever you're drawing something, right? You're even if I'm drawing a shape, I'm building this shape with 4 lines. Okay, so like don't take line seriously, or like don't take it too literally. Take it seriously. Don't take it too literally. So be like, wait, Faye, if I can't draw lines, then how do I draw? What I mean is like, don't draw outlines. Don't start by drawing outlines. Okay. Hopefully that is more clear. Okay. And so should I start with a shape like a cube, then move on to silhouette? Cubes are not shapes. Cubes are forms. So I would go from shape to silhouette to structure, which is form. All right. So let me show you how I would actually draw a hand with the GSL method. Okay, so I'm gonna try to like give you my most natural looking, just relaxed hand. Okay, so let's say here's my relaxed looking hand. I'm just gonna put it over here. So just keep in mind your view might be a little different than my view, just because I have a slightly different angle. Like I'm looking at it like this, you are looking at it like this, right? So there's gonna be a little bit of a difference. But this would be how I would start my gesture. Okay, so if you look at what I just drew, it's a rough outline, not a rough outline, it's a rough guideline, okay? Because I'm not outlining every single finger, I'm kind of drawing in the movement with this curved line that kind of represents, the tilt of my hand and my wrist. I'm grouping the fingers together, and I'm kind of like, drawing in the action of the thumb over here. And so that's kind of how I would draw a pose like this. But gestures are very subjective, right? Gestures can be, it really depends on the artist. But oh my goodness, this is very awkward. Okay. So the next what I would do is I would try to draw in the shape. And I realize that my hand is casting a shadow on this and it's kind of hard to see. So let me just move it over. Okay, there. Okay, so that would be my gesture, and then my shape. My shapes would like this. So we've got palm of the hand. It's kind of like a piece of toast, right? So your shapes include your positive and negative shapes. Okay, positive and negative space. And I've never had nails this long, so I realize that when I'm drawing with my chalk, I'm like holding it with my nail, which is super awkward. I never had nice nails because I would always get them so dirty, right? Like there would be charcoal and paint under my fingernails, and I never liked that. But yeah, I wanted to look pretty this month, so I treated myself to some nice nails, and now I'm like, I can't draw. Okay. So then what I would do is I would, you know, after I've kind of mapped out the shape, then I would actually draw out the outlines. And you can kind of see that when I draw the outlines, things change a little bit, right? So there's a little bit of variation between my shape and my my line steps. But really what you want to do is you want to make sure like your fingers are like relatively speaking, they're you want to compare the proportions, right? Your middle finger is usually the longest, and then it depends. Some people have longer index fingers and shorter ring fingers, and some people have shorter ring fingers and longer index fingers. Mine are about the same, I think. Mine are about the same, but they're like roughly the same. And then your thumb, so your thumb and your index finger, like if you put your thumb right next to the palm of your hand, you can see that it kind of like the tip of my thumb aligns with this section of my index finger, so it's kind of in the middle. But if I put my thumb out like this, I can kind of see a curve. Like if you look at the bend lines on my fingers, you can kind of see that it curves and it reaches the thumb. So that's kind of how I measure out the thumb. Oh, super messy. Okay. So you can kind of see you have 3 passes at drawing a hand, which can make it a little bit easier because then, you know, you have a chance to correct it at each stage. And obviously if you're drawing with one tool, you want to get darker as you go, right? So you want to like start off light and then get darker and darker. But sometimes it's better to just use 3 different colors or 3 different layers if you're drawing digitally. I'm just going to catch up with the chat. I'm so sorry, but I don't understand. What do you mean from shape to silhouette to structure? Okay, so shape, this phase of the shape is all one phase, okay? So you don't have to go like shape to silhouette to structure. I'm just saying if you are a beginner, just think of it as a shape, as the shape phase. If you're more advanced, you can draw forms, okay, which is structure. Silhouettes are combinations of shapes. Okay, so silhouettes are really good. For example, if you are a character designer, or if you are drawing people, right? It's a really good way to draw a, um, a a human, a hand. It's basically like a shadowy figure, right? So it's like a um, like a silhouette, like if you were backlit, right? Not sure if that answers your question, but basically, like any of these would work. You can think of it as a silhouette or you can think of it as a structure, but generally speaking, you can think of it as shapes. Okay, so combining different shapes. Okay, so let's do some timed practice. Actually, hold on. Before we do that, I just want to show you one more example of the GSL method with like a slightly different pose, because this one is just like open hand. But like, what if you have a pose that's more like from the side, right? Like, what if it's like more like this? So, or even like a bend like this, right? So if it's more like this, then your gesture would probably be like that, right? And then, your shape in this case I would sort of draw out I would group the fingers and I would draw the fingers like this. Okay. So you can see I've kind of like grouped the fingers for now just to keep it simple. And then my negative space. So there's negative space between here and there's negative space between each of the fingers. So I would probably focus on the main negative space, which is here, right? In the foreground versus the background, or what's in front versus what's behind. Okay. So then this is my negative space. And then you can start to draw out the negative space of your other fingers. And so it would look something like this. Right. So that would be your shape phase before you do the line. Okay, so this is kind of like a rough idea of what that might look like. Okay. Okay. Kindred Spirit says, how would you make the finger joints not look weird and more natural? Mine looks very stiff. We could talk a little bit about fingers. So when I draw fingers, unless the hand is bent like this, like if the hand is bent like this, right? Then it's better to draw the fingers as like a shape like this. Okay, so I'm drawing this finger. So it's better to draw it as like a shape like this and then divide out the negative space, for example. Okay, so it'll be like this. Okay, that is a much better way of drawing the finger than trying to draw it in sections. So I have to, I'll do it over here. Okay, I'll do it down here. So if you were trying to draw like you know, here I'm kind of like trying to draw them individually. Like, this is fine. You can get away with this, but this is a lot more complex, right? You have to think about a lot of things at once. When I'm drawing a finger, I'm thinking about, okay, what is the basic shape? What shape can I fit this finger into? How do I simplify it for myself so that it's a lot easier for me to get the proportions right? Because your shapes help you get your proportions right. And like if I was to draw, you know, the palm of my hand from the side, right? It looks like a triangle, right? It's kind of like this shape, right? Yeah, sure, I can sort of just like guess what it looks like by outlining it. But drawing it as a triangle is just a lot easier, right? Then I can say, okay, my fingers kind of go out this way, and then I can start to build it up, right? I can start to combine shapes instead of, and like this is outlining, this is more structure drawing. Is negative space the empty parts when drawing the gesture shape? Not the gesture shape, it's when you're drawing the actual shapes. So this is negative space, this is negative space, right? So I can draw the negative space in order to create the silhouette, right? I drew the glove, I drew like a glove shape because it's easier for me to align the fingers in the gesture phase. Like I draw a line to say, okay, all my fingers are gonna align like this, right? And then I'm gonna divide it out, right? So if you think of it like that, it becomes a little bit easier. All right. This style of drawing definitely gets kind of messy, but I kind of like it. Look at my hands. They're like black already. All right, so let's get into some timed poses because I plan to draw my own hand, but it's really hard to hold my hand still and draw on stream. Okay, so hopefully the reference isn't too small. Oh, I have to adjust it. Okay. I could use a glove. I could, but I hate drawing with gloves. Okay, so we're gonna draw from some timed references. These are 5 minutes, by the way. 5-minute poses. So here we go. We're not going to overthink it. We're going to try to use the GSL method. Think about the gesture. Think about the shape. Okay. Should you draw the arm? Yes, if you can. Arm is good. Like drawing an arm gives you really good context, right? Because things should be attached to stuff. So if you're drawing like a head, you should always draw the neck if you can. You know, if you draw the neck, then you should draw the shoulders. Okay, so there's the fist, and then I can see the knuckles. Here's the line of the knuckles. Then I divide it out. The other reason why you want to draw your lines last is so that you put all of your effort into making really beautiful lines. So thicks and thins, paying attention to, you know, which part of the line is thicker, which part is thinner, right? Being a lot more descriptive with your lines instead of worrying about accuracy at this stage. I need a shorter piece of chalk to just do my shading with. So guys, let me know if my camera is being wonky or if you guys can hear the music okay. I don't know what fell. Oh, my stapler fell. Okay. Yeah, so this is 5 minutes. I don't know what the time is now, but I think there's about 42 seconds left. I find having hard edges on my chalk kind of annoying, so I'm just going to use my sanding pad here to get rid of those hard edges so that I could shade a little bit more seamlessly. Okay, so now we're gonna draw two hands interacting. This is kind of a fun exercise because when you're drawing two hands, you got to draw them together, right? So, you know, you can draw the gesture together. So you got one hand kind of doing this, and then this hand is kind of going up like that. And then you can just kind of focus on the shape of the hand, you know, like the shape of the palm versus the gesture of the thumb. So this is my shape phase. My shape phase sometimes just like runs into just my gesture because they are kind of related, right? Again, gestures can be shapes, they can also be lines. I find gesture very hard to explain because gestures can look like so many different things. And there's no right or wrong way to draw a gesture. I've been in life drawing sessions where I'm drawing alongside other people and their gestures look very different than my gestures, but we all kind of, you know, end up with like a similar end result. So just draw however you interpret the movement is fine, as long as you're drawing the movement. As long as you're not forgetting about the movement, then all is good. I can't really see the wrist of this hand, but I'm gonna just pretend that it's doing this. And then I can start to draw out the story. Okay, so I don't know what this person is doing, but they're braiding. It looks like they're braiding something. Right, so I'm gonna draw in whatever it is they're braiding first, right, to help tell the story, and align all the fingers, make sure the fingers are interacting properly. Right, and then this is when you can like really focus in on getting good line art. So your line art can help tell the story of whether or not this is an old hand, or if this is a young hand, right? If it's a tired hand, if it's an experienced hand. Hands have so much character in them, right? So the less you can focus, like the more you can focus on storytelling with line rather than trying to get it accurate, the more of an advantage you have, right? And this is the difference with, I'm sure you've seen, there are people who draw like hairy lines. So like lines like, you know, like they'll draw like this, right? When you see hairy lines, you know that that person is just trying to draw everything at the same time. They're trying to do too much, and so the line work doesn't look confident, right? So the best way to get your lines looking confident is by simplifying the process and working on one thing at a time. And don't worry, if you're a beginner and your hands look wonky in the beginning, that's fine. You have to practice. It takes a lot of practice. It's not like oh, I'm gonna draw for an hour and I expect my hands to be perfect. Like, no. I've been drawing for over like, I've been drawing for decades. Let's just put it at that. And you know, there's still stuff for me to learn. I'm still getting better every day. And sometimes when I'm out of practice, I draw terribly. And you guys get to see it live. So, you know, don't rush. Don't really set those false expectations for yourself. And every single bad drawing counts. Every single bad drawing means that you're learning something. And if you're learning something, it's all worth it. Had to make up the rest because I wasn't aware of the time. Okay, so this hand I'm gonna skip. Let's do these ones. Oh, I love the double hand. I love the interaction. Okay, so here. Somebody's at the door, by the way, so my dog's gonna go a little crazy. I just drew a Chinese takeout container. This is nothing, this looks nothing like hands, okay guys? Like, that's what I drew. Maybe because I'm hungry and I'm like, this looks like a takeout container. But really what I'm drawing is the hands holding onto a ledge, right? That's why it's bending like that. How do you draw a hand that's on a face? Like you draw any hand. You just put a face behind it. Try not to overcomplicate, like, you know, what it is you're drawing. Like, your brain, when you're like, okay, I can't draw this because I can't draw these hands because it's on top of a face. Okay, you're making excuses for it. Like, don't think about like what it is you're drawing. Just like try to think of like the shapes that you're drawing. Okay. Like, I'm looking at these fingers, and if I was like, okay, if I told my brain that I'm gonna draw two hands and, you know, in a very complex pose and like putting pressure on a ledge, like my brain would be firing and saying, Faye, you cannot do that. That is way too hard. But if my brain is like, okay, if I tell myself, what shape do these hands make? And my brain is like, oh, it kind of looks like a Chinese takeout container. I'm like, oh, I could draw that. No problem. I could draw a box. Easy. Right? So you have to trick your brain, okay? Your brain is going to tell you you can't do this because of this. So you got to be like, okay, brain, I'm not drawing this, I'm drawing this. Right? Insert much easier subject that kind of looks like what you're drawing. Okay, so if I'm like, oh my gosh, like these fingers, and then there's long fingernails, and then there's like all these things, all these pieces and moving parts, right? You're gonna feel like it's harder. So that's actually not helping you, right? So I'm not even thinking at this point. I'm just trying to look for shapes, look for my positive and negative shapes, following my gesture that I set up for myself. Right, and then if I really wanted to add shading to it, I would just kind of focus on like this plane being in the light and this plane being in the dark. Okay, so just keeping it simple, as simple as I can. I realize there's a tangent here with the nail, so I'm going to change that. What a tangent means is it just means that that line was running into the nail, so it was making that that hand look kind of flat. Okay. Oh, I like this pose. This is a really cool pose. So again, like the gesture is kind of doing this, right? And then if you're drawing the fingers make a rectangle shape. So they're kind of doing this on a tilt. My gestures, sometimes they look like what I'm drawing, but other times they look nothing like what I'm drawing. And when they look nothing like what I'm drawing, it usually means that I'm actually doing a better job, because what I draw are things like alignments and rhythm and movement. Okay, so that kind of looks like a hand. Let's see what we can turn it into. Yeah, overthinking it is just it's so detrimental to your practice. And so that's why I like timed drawing so much better, is because you're not really spending time thinking. You are taking you're taking all the time during the practice to observe. right? Just to observe and to abstract. Abstracting is super important. I know you guys are all storytellers. You love storytelling. Visual storytelling is like what you're here for. And it's what I love as well. But the learning to abstract things is a really, really good skill, even for visual storytelling. It helps you draw, it helps you draw quickly, and it's just a skill, I think, that isn't as popular or isn't as taught. But being able to look at something and seeing shapes instead of seeing what exactly it is you're drawing, instead of being literal, like I'm drawing a hand, right? If I asked you, okay, this is not a hand, what is it? Right? Being able to say, oh, it kind of looks like this, or it kind of looks like that. That can help you a lot with your process. At least your process for simplification. And then if you can think like that, then you can trick your brain into drawing anything. You'll notice when your brain gets in the way too, right? But it's just like, no, you can't do this because of this. Hopefully in the future you'll have Faye in your head just going like, all right, we gotta trick your brain into thinking that you can. How much time do we got left? 1 minute and 18 seconds. That'll give me some time to catch up with the chat. If you have any questions, keep your questions coming. I may not be able to check all the time because I'm concentrating. I'm trying to talk and draw and read at the same time is not easy, but I'll do my best. Okay. How do you get your brain to comprehend 3D things into 2D things? I just try to think about it as a silhouette instead of okay, tell yourself that you're not drawing a hand. You are drawing you know those cardboard cutouts of like celebrities that they put in front of stuff to sell stuff, right? So think about it as like that. Think about this hand as like a cardboard cutout. It's the illusion of 3D, and not really 3D. At least that's how I would trick my brain. Okay, next set of hands. So this one, also a double hand, so it's kind of like a tree, right? Kind of like a tree with branches. Okay, so that is like my gesture. So it's just like a very, very light guideline for myself. And because the fingers are so complex, in this case, it might be helpful to draw out the negative space. So here's the shape of one hand. Right, there's the first hand like this. And then the second hand is kind of going behind it. So then I might draw out my negative space. So there I see a diamond. And then now I'm going to tackle the line, probably one finger at a time. Just keep in mind that fingers are like pointier on the outside and fleshier on the inside. Trying to focus before my time runs out. I've got 18 seconds. Oh, that was a hard one. All right. Oh, hey, Krem, welcome in. Nice to see you. All right. So if you're not sure how to draw a gesture, just remember that when you're drawing people or hands, like anatomy in general, think about counterbalance, right? There is always, if you look for it, a S curve or like some type of curve, because the balance is actually in the middle, right? But the S curve is a good way to think about like a standing pose, right? Because this hand, you could draw the gesture of the hand as just like one line going up and down, but it doesn't sort of mimic the movement of a hand, right? So if I'm moving my hand like this, you can kind of see that if I'm doing this, then my arm is counterbalancing it. If I'm doing this, then my arm like automatically adjusts so that it balances out my body. So it's like when you shift weight, like let's say you shift your weight, right? When you're standing from one foot to the other, that's your body adjusting and counterbalancing itself, which is really, really, like you don't even think about it, right? But it's really, really important if you want to be good at figure drawing. So in this case, I would probably draw the thumb first, just because it's in front of everything else. So yeah, if you are a student or a member of Wing Canvas and you're drawing along with me, definitely submit your artwork for critique on the Discord. We have a members only Discord and learning platform where you can get critique from our instructors live, as well as asynchronous. So whenever you need. It's a really, really great way to learn. And very flexible. So feel free to, if you're a member, to tag me and say like, hey Faye, I drew along with you. What do you think? And I'll give you feedback. Generally with these timed poses though, like, it's okay if your hands are a little bit off. What you're really looking to do is just like practice the method, right? Like practice drawing it in phases and simplifying it for yourself instead of outlining. So if you take away one thing from what we learned today, it's don't outline, avoid outlining, draw from the inside out. Don't forget the movement. Especially if you're a visual storyteller, movement is so, so important. I usually do 2-minute hand drawings, and so I rarely get a chance to shade, which is really cool. It's nice treat. I'm like, oh, I have more time. I sometimes find my 2-minute drawings to be better than my 5-minute drawings. But let me catch up with the chat. Weird question, how do you copy your own style? I drew a random doodle and I just can't replicate it. Oh, that is a strange question. I think if you draw something, you are allowed to trace it. But, you know, if you want to replicate your own style and you're having trouble, it just means you probably need to practice more. Okay, so here's a hand holding an apple. And I'm going to kind of draw the fingers wrapping around the apple. If you want to get better at drawing anything, like it's not like, oh, I can't replicate my own style. It's just like you're having trouble drawing something from reference or from your, you know, from your own, like, I'm not sure if you're trying to draw the exact drawing or if you're trying to draw something else in your style. But drawing everything is the same, okay? It's not like, oh, How do I, I can draw hands, but I can't draw feet. Like, yes, you can. You're just, again, it's just you thinking that you can't draw feet. But if you can draw hands, you can draw feet. They're the same, very, very similar. You might be more familiar with hands, but again, that's your brain getting in the way. When you think you can't, then you can't. When you think you can, then you can. Right? It's like either way, you're right. So again, it's a limiting belief, not that you can't. I believe in you. I believe you can do it. I think limiting beliefs affect a lot of artists, right? Especially when you've been on Instagram for an hour and you're like, oh my gosh, this person draws so well. I'm never gonna draw like that person. Okay, well, if you say you're never going to, then you're never going to. Try saying to yourself, one day I'm gonna draw like that person, but like even better, in my own style. And watch your life change. Just like when we started our YouTube channel, we did it for our students. Like I never thought that we would be at like 440,000 subscribers, like ever. I never thought that it was possible. I didn't think it was impossible, but I never thought it was possible. And then when I started thinking that it was possible, that's when it started to happen. Right? Because if you don't think that it's possible, then you're not going to do the things that will make it possible. So every action starts with a thought. Okay. Let's see here. How much time do we have? You got 25 seconds. He's got a fun little tattoo. Let's draw that tattoo. We actually have a stream on how to draw tattoos. It's pretty sick. You should watch it if you want to get better at drawing tattoos. Like, oh my gosh, I have so much time, I can draw his arm hair. There we go. Ooh, this is a good hand. A hand on a handle. All right. Let's move over here. Okay, so you can see that I simplified the fingers into a semicircle, right? And then I focused on like that S curve of the arm, just giving it that rhythm and that humanness. So then I drew the fingers on top of my guideline. You can see it's not perfect, right? But like it's enough for me to get an idea of, you know, the overall shape so that I can modify it in my line phase. You always want to draw what the hand is holding or what the hand is interacting with. Also, if the fingers have pressure on them, so here you can see like the fingers are gripping this handle pretty tight, right? So if the fingers have pressure, then you want to make that line art a little bit darker. Just catching up with the chat. Ezequel, sorry if I just butchered your name. Late to the stream, but here nonetheless. No worries. The stream will be, there will be a replay available so you can catch up with what you missed. And you guys have 24 seconds left. I avoid drawing hands for so long because my brain thought I couldn't do it. Then one day I properly tried and realized it wasn't too bad. Awesome, Master Pig. Yeah, that's exactly what you need to do. And like, you know what? Sometimes we all have bad days, right? We all have days where we're like, we can't do this. This is too much. This actually looks like the hand of Adam in, you know, the famous painting by Michelangelo in the Sistine Chapel. It looks like Adam's hand. But anyway, yeah, limiting beliefs affect so many artists. So many artists come to me and they're like, "Faye, I don't know whether or not I can, you know, turn my art into a career. Like, I don't know. I would love to, but I don't know. I don't know if I can do it." And I'm like, well, if you don't know, then you probably can't, right? Or you are not really giving yourself a chance because you've already ruled that out in your head. A lot of people also think, oh, it's so hard to be an artist, and you know, I just don't make money. And like, those are all, unfortunately, things that we were told, things that aren't true that we were told that then we were conditioned to believe. So you have to kind of break away from that in order to really do what you want to do and do what you love. If art is what you love, you know, it's totally cool if you do it as a hobby. That's great. If you can have, you know, find the time to do it as a hobby. But if you did want to turn it into a career, the first thing you need to do is you need to like believe that you can, and you totally can. There are so many artists who are you know, killing it out there with their art. And not just artists, designers, successful designers, illustrators, concept artists. Like every video game you play, every shirt you wear, every single, you know, publication you read, every website you've seen, every interface you've used was touched by an artist. Everything. Okay, so if there weren't that many artists out there, everything would look hideous. So, you know, art touches everything we do. I was a designer for many years, and I was an illustrator. Then I really fell in love with design, and so I was a graphic designer. Then I was an art director, right? All of these things require my skills of being an artist, drawing. I did some storyboards for commercials. I worked on some commercials as well, did some casting. Like, just like so many things can come out of being an artist. Like, there's just so many skills that you probably don't even know, right? You might think, oh, to be an artist, I'm just gonna make art and sell it at a gallery. Like, no, that is so untrue. There are so many incredible, meaningful jobs out there for artists. And think about industrial designers too. Like, that's really cool. Designing new things. And packaging. I did some packaging as well. Packaged like the exact same product for different brands and sold it at a premium. Totally random, but I packaged weather stations. And I designed 4 different types of weather station packaging. I think I did one for National Geographic. I think I did one for like Walmart. Was it Walmart? It was some kind of like cheaper brand. It was the exact same product. And then what really turned me off from packaging was like instruction manuals. Like, I was illustrating instruction manuals and I was like, nobody reads these. nobody reads them. So yeah, I stopped doing packaging, but it was fun while I tried it. I just like tried a whole bunch of different things before Winged Canvas and had a lot of fun. So, you know, being an artist can mean many different things. It doesn't just mean like a gallery artist. Oh, cool. Okay, we did another page of hands. Let's go. Let's keep these 5 minutes drawings going. By the end of this practice, you will be hopefully a lot more confident, assuming you're drawing along with me. If you need a break, like, or if you're come across a pose where you're like, oh, I don't really know how to do this, then, you know, peek up at me. You can take a break and watch if you want, but I encourage you to draw and just like peek up at me if you need some direction. So again, like, this is more of a shape gesture, right? This is like a fan shape. This is a fan shape, which then I turned into like a hand structure. And here I'm mapping out the negative space. Look at this triangle shape in here between the hands, right? So that's good negative space. So in this hand, I decided to draw the fingers because it's a little bit foreshortened, right? The fingers are much bigger. So take this finger, for example. You see how it's like wider here and thinner here? Like this is a pose that's so complex that if you were just to draw the outlines, like there's almost a very, very small chance that it would actually look good because you have to think about foreshortening, right? Okay, let's attempt the line now. "41 seconds. Whew. Just doing some of the shading from imagination, but that was a tough one. Okay. Single hands are always so easy when you're trying double. Okay, so let's put this one here. This is a wand, person holding a wand. There's a nice diamond shape in the hand. The line of the knuckles is a really good landmark to put down. because it kind of guides everything, right? Okay. So it's funny, when I teach hands in my classes, I generally try to, you know, I will definitely stick to the GSL method, but there's like different methods to drawing hands. We're actually going to be cross-hatching hands in my drawing foundations class. And cross-hatching is a really great technique to learn structure and to learn how to shade really well. If you want to improve on your shading, cross-hatching is like one of those techniques that will level up your shading in no time, because you have to think about like your direction of line. So not just your direction of line when you're drawing line art, but your direction of line when you're shading. And I love cross-hatching. I did a ton of it when I was in school. And I just love the technique. So I use it a lot in my personal work, like whenever I'm drawing. Or whenever I'm drawing in pen. So if you want to learn more about cross-hatching, we have a couple of streams. I believe I drew like a little cockroach character. He was really cute. But I drew a little cockroach character in one of my cross-hatching streams. And it was like inspired by Tim Burton, even though Tim Burton doesn't really cross-hatch. Like maybe he has, but it was really fun. So yeah, I encourage you to study cross-hatching if you haven't already. Just catching up with the chat here. Yeah, when you think of it as shapes, you can break small things down into bigger things. Oh, Toaster, hello! Hello, one of our lovely students. You made it to a stream. Hope you are drawing along with me. Yeah, we're doing hands next week in our class, so this is a good warm-up. I do want to talk a little bit about foreshortened hands as well, because I know that's something that people have a lot of trouble with. Basically, you have to be really good at drawing your cylinders in order to get really good at foreshortening. Okay, so cylinders is something that I highly encourage you to practice, so you can kind of see that I drew circles and then I drew cylinders afterwards. Right, and you can see the cylinders are like smaller here and larger here, so that's what creates the foreshortening effect. Okay. What I really like about these hands is that you can see the bone structure, right? Super intense pose, like very, very intense. There's so much tension going on in it, right? So, like, if you're drawing in the shapes, you can definitely use more angles. So if there's a lot of tension, angles are better than curves. Like, look at that thumb. It's like bending backwards, so you can kind of draw like an oval to show the tip of the thumb, and then you could sort of draw the joint as well. Like, remember that thumbs only have 2 joints, whereas your fingers have 3. You can draw in the negative space here, and then this finger is kind of curving out this way. So you'll notice I used a lot of angles in this gesture and shape drawing because I really want to exaggerate the tension. Right, so this allows me to really focus on my line art and make it as descriptive, as emotional, as, you know, I'm trying to find the right word for it, as lively, as dynamic as I can, without worrying about my proportions. Oh, I like this hand. It has so much character in it. So much character. Just need to draw out some of the bones. Let's see. We have 20 minutes left. Do you guys want to do more timed drawings, or do you want to slow down and do something a little bit longer? Or do you want to go faster? Let me know in the chat. And also, I'll take some time to answer your questions. So if you have any questions about anything, as long as it's related to drawing. Let me know. Oh, I really like this hand. I think that one of the things that you could probably start to think about, and I want to bring this one thing up again, one sec. So I mentioned before that there is a lot of people that I see who draw like this photo, like tell me if this is you, okay? Okay, I'm gonna draw a hand, and I think it looks like this. Okay, hairy lines. If you draw with hairy lines, unless you are drawing a fur baby or some kind of furry creature, even then you shouldn't be using furry lines. Like if you're drawing fur, right, you can kind of like use broken lines, you know, but they shouldn't be hairy lines, okay? Hairy lines, if you're drawing like this, again, it means you're trying to do too many things at the same time. It means you're trying to draw the outline. It means you're trying to, you know, capture the pose. you're also trying to get the proportions right. You're doing way too many things, so you're not doing anything well, right? So again, the GSL method is really good. It's a really good way of helping you break down the process so it's not super overwhelming. And so, you know, like you can apply it to a lot of things. Like for example, if I look at the hand that I see there, some people were asking me about fingers. So if you are having trouble drawing fingers, like you can think of a finger as you know, two lines like this, even though fingers technically bend three ways, except for thumbs. Thumbs only have two joints. But like if we look at the index finger in the reference picture right now, you can see that it's like, it's really just like two, right? So then you can kind of draw in 1, 2 cylinders. This one has a bit of a bend to it, right? Practice your nails too. Like nails should be following the cylinder. So if you have a cylinder that's kind of going like this, okay? If your cylinder is going like this, then chances are the nail is also going like this. Okay? See how it's like following the form, right? So that's why I always say to my students, if you're my student here, Toaster, Kindred Spirit, calling you guys out. If you're my student, I'm always like, draw the cylinders, draw the tops and bottoms of those cylinders. Because if my cylinder is like this, then my nail is gonna go this way, right? It's gonna go this way. If you draw a cylinder like this and you draw the nail going the opposite way, it's going to look weird. It's going to look like it's not done right. So that's why when you're drawing fingers, right, you want to think of them as cylinders in space. Okay? Because that ultimately will empower you to finish the drawing even if you don't have reference. If you don't have reference, you could say, okay, I know that this is curving this way, so then I know that the nail is going to curve this way, right? I also know which joint is going to overlap. I know that this line is going to overlap this line, and this line's going to overlap this line, right? Like all of these things you know if you focus on understanding the structure instead of trying to just like focus too much on the outline. So I can draw the exact same finger, but with the cylinders going the opposite way. Okay, so I'm gonna draw this time I'm gonna draw the cylinders going this way. Okay, similar shape, right? But very different in terms of how I would apply the line. So here it would, like this part would overlap. Right, so that would be the top of a finger, and then if I was drawing the nail, it would go this way. Right? So really, really important to draw your cylinders. Draw your cylinders. If you are not good at hands, practice your cylinders. You'll be much, much better at it. Cool, we got another action-packed hand. Look at this hand, so good. I'm actually gonna do something a little bit different in this one. I'm going to stylize it a little bit. So you can take a reference like this, right? and you can stylize it. So I might give it like really thick knuckles. And I might make it like really meaty, right? So here it's like very, very meaty, you know, all hands. So this kind of stuff is also fun, right? You can practice stylizing hands from real references and just kind of see what type of stuff you can get away with. I like the big meaty hands and like the really thin wrist. I like that kind of exaggeration. Powder dice, thank you for this live. I learned about not outlining but going from inside out. I think it'll help and stop overthinking. I'm glad that you find it helpful. Larry said, so hands can be broken down into a pentagon with cylinders attached. I wouldn't say a pentagon. It really depends on the shape of the hand, right? A pentagon assumes that each side is the same, whereas it's not always the same. So yeah, but you know, I like to think of it as like a piece of toast, right? A piece of toast with the fingers. You can think of like breakfast sausages, but maybe don't think of sausages because then they might look like sausages. Sausages with bones in them. All right, so Kevin says a question I saw in Discord a while ago was, what's the best way to add wrinkles and skin folds to say older hands without overdoing it? That's a good question. So let's draw this person's hands, okay, and let's make them old. So I actually taught a class, and I believe, you know what, we have a YouTube video on drawing hands young and old. I'm pretty sure we do. Because I'm pretty sure I spent hours going through it, giving feedback. So, okay, so let's say we have a very basic outline of a hand and we want to make it look a little bit older. So older hands tend to have a little bit like more bone showing through, right? So you can draw some of this bone. It also has like knobbier knuckles and knobbier fingers in general. So I would probably draw in the knuckles to be a bit bigger. Like this. And then, there we go. Okay, so I might add some more like, you know, joints, swollen joints, arthritis. So, you know, I would probably just put a little bit more emphasis on the joints, so I might make them like a little bit darker. Maybe a bit more of a gap between the fingers. So I'm not even like drawing a lot of wrinkles. It's sometimes it's just like in the, like when you get older, your skin gets a little bit thinner, right? Like little crispier, a little bit more see-through. That's why you can kind of see like the bones a lot more. So as long as you know what can make somebody's hand or face look older, aside from just like drawing a young face and putting wrinkles on it. Like sometimes that doesn't work, you know, because inherently the proportions can be different. Like for older people, their faces tend to be a little bit longer, their noses are bigger. Like I'm talking about faces, not hands. It's very noticeable when you're drawing older faces, but with hands, it's really just in the skin. Like, how can you describe, you know, crispier skin? Maybe there's some spots, right? So maybe there's like a couple spots. Draw some more wrinkles here. I actually have a lot of wrinkles on my hand because I don't either I don't drink enough water or I don't put enough lotion on, but my hands can get really wrinkly, and they're like young-ish hands. So I think it's more than just wrinkles. Like I could probably make the wrist a little bit bonier as well. Alrighty. Whew. That was a lot of drawing, guys. Yeah, so I am probably not going to do any more drawing, but I will answer some of your questions. So if you have any questions about the process or anything that you're struggling with in particular, let me know, because I love kind of seeing what everybody's unique challenges are. And if you guys have any questions at all, you know, you can also put them on the Discord. So if you didn't know and you just joined us, our mission at Wing Canvas is to make art education easily accessible to everyone. Oh, you can see my script there. Ha ha ha. Oh, by the way, this is a tool called Line of Action, and it's really, really useful for timed drawings. So check them out, just called line-of-action.com. It's a free tool. You can put in whatever time you want. Actually, I can probably show you guys if you haven't used it, how it works. So I just want to thank the people who made this, because it's an incredible tool for drawing. So you can choose figures, you can choose hands and feet, you can choose animals. So here I just chose hands, and then I chose both hands and feet, or just hands. So I chose hands. You can choose the gender, you can choose the same length or a class mode, which like warms you up with quick gesture drawings, then eases you into longer poses. I chose 5 minutes. You can also put in like specifically the amount of seconds that you want. And then you just hit get drawing, and there you go. It will produce some random hand references for you, right? Really, really great tool. There's also another tool called reference.sketchdaily.net that I really enjoy as well, and I used it a lot. So, there is no reason why you can't do time drawings. I mean, you can even set a timer and draw your own face. Draw your own hands, or draw your face, whatever you need. But timed drawings are really, really good practice, and I encourage everybody to do it because it helps build not only your speed, but your confidence. And it just like lets you do so much more. And when you use timed references, you're not overthinking things, right? Like you're not going in with an eraser, like you're not really overthinking too much because you are on a timer. Right? You're just drawing as fast as you can, and your consciousness is like being translated from like your eyes to your hand without your brain interfering too much. The only thing your brain should be doing is or saying to you is like, you can do this, you got this, and gesture before shape, shape before line. That's it. GSL and you can do it. Okay, so our mission at Wing Canvas, if you didn't know already, we love art nerds at Wing Canvas, and our mission is to make art education easily accessible to everyone. So we are not just a YouTube channel, we are an online school of illustration, helping art nerds turn their passion into income. So if you're an art nerd, be sure to join our Discord, where you can find our notes and artwork from streams, as well as art challenges and other resources to help you improve your art. There's lots of membership perks, both on YouTube and Patreon. So if you're a YouTube member, you get these really neat badges with some of Jessie's awesome emotes. And if you're a Patreon member, you can level up your artwork with classes, Q&A, and live critiques. So we have the creators at Wing Canvas. We have office hours once a week, so they are available for members. You can bring in your personal artwork, your classwork, and get live feedback from the Wing Canvas gang. All right, I should say Wing Canvas nerds instead of gang. But yeah, so I hope you guys had a great time drawing hands with me. I hope you learned a lot. Don't forget to join Iggy tomorrow. Iggy is going to be streaming as well. And Josh will be live on Monday night. So if you learned something, don't forget to leave us a like and a comment. Subscribe if you haven't already. When you subscribe, you can vote on our weekly polls where you get to decide what we draw on stream. And if you've been drawing along with me, definitely share your artwork on the Discord or on social media. Tag us at Wing Canvas. We would love to see it. And if you're a member, share it in our Members Critique Discord channel if you want feedback from me and the rest of our instructors. All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us live today, and I hope you have an awesome weekend. Bye, guys. Bye.